Hello and welcome to our studio again. Today another Into Design video on Henry II, or bespoke shooting brake based on the Rolls-Royce Corniche we've taught you a bit more about in previous videos. Today we're going to discuss, as you can see here on the screens if you walk around, the exterior design of the car. And again, I would invite you to watch the videos we've posted before in this car if you haven't yet seen those. But let's scroll to what is actually our lookbook. So every car we design and build, a lookbook is made for the client, a beautiful big coffee table book with the entire process described in wording, of course, but also in photo shoots, in sketches, in everything we do. And this is what we're going to use now in a digital form, because the client has the book, to guide you through this specific part of the design process. So, in this lookbook, one of the chapters is the design work, and again I'm referring to the previous videos. Please do have a look at the interior design video that we've published earlier. So we'll move on from here to those sketches which you've also talked about in previous videos. So the very early thumbnail sketches, very quick ideation sketches we do by hand. This is really a simple black big pen and a white sheet of paper and endless drawings to ideate, to go from left to right, from very formal to very dynamic, from very spacious to maybe a bit more cocooned and smaller. We really explore everything. We don't judge yet about whether it's an excellent fit. It's really just getting all the ideas out there. That's very important in the early ideation process. But we're moving on. In this video, we are past this stage. A quick highlight on the materials that we're going to discuss with you in another video. So we're going to fly through this, some of the samples and some of the letters, but we're not going to show much because today we're talking about the car design journey for the exterior. So these lovely renders here were made by Tim, sitting next to me, and he will join us, of course, as in the previous videos, on the conversation. Yeah. What was done, how it was done, why it was done, very important, the why. And let's move on to what we've done indeed in this car design journey. So on screen here we see these early ideation sketches in the right bottom and left top corner that we just touched on, these thumbnail sketches. And actually the next stage is on the bigger images. So this is where we translate these into renders. They are still handmade, digital, but handmade with a Wacom, basically, a drawing tablet. And you'll see quite a significant differences between left and right. For instance, on the right hand side here we have a slightly more formal and let's say upright design. On the left hand side it's a lot softer, it's more inspired by the clouds and sort of phantoms from the 60s and maybe even 70s, but on the right hand side is definitely a more 80s setup with a more harsh chrome line on the right hand side. Here on the left hand side some ideas on the surfaces, including the shut lines, a very important point of car design. You see also, if you look very closely there, left and right, actually both cars have the idea of using the bumper rosettes, the upright elements, actually as a way of exiting the tailpipes. So at this stage, like I said, all the wild ideas are being filtered out, but we're still actually going left, right, up and down between all these different design teams. Where do we place the number plate emboss? What are we going to do with the rear bumper? How we're going to resolve the roof line with the shut line, with the graphics of the rear window and all these different elements. It's a cocktail basically of a lot of different points that we have to address, from aesthetics to functionality to producibility to of course the client's desire and the way the car is being used. So also very interesting stages here. We'll move on to the next page in this lookbook.
I think it's a lot of experimentation, right?
Absolutely, yeah. It's really, like I said, on the very early ideation sketches we don't really judge, and here we're going to slightly already eliminate some ideas, but we're still actually very free and very open to what the possibilities could be for this car. So let's move on indeed. This is an interesting one. Here we see what would happen if we would have used the original C-pillar of the Rolls-Royce Corniche coupe on the shooting brake.
So the top right one.
The top right
Yeah,
one,
yeah.
yeah. So you see the car is actually, it looks a bit unpleasant, it looks stiff, it looks like the rear window is sort of pushed backwards. It's not a pleasant piece of design. We deliberately sketched this out because, of course, you can talk to the client about it and say, we don't really advise to carry over the exact aesthetics. Of course, we wouldn't ever just copy-paste the original pillar, but we could, of course, remake it. And you see, it just doesn't work. And then it's very obvious if the client can actually see a not so pleasant sketch next to a more pleasant sketch, because he can actually compare what the methodology brings to the car, to the design of the car. So coming back to the screen again, you see some of these sort of more soft rear end setups with different number plate embosses, a number plate high or low. You see some of them on the left upper image as well, and you see we describe that to the client. So we say, okay, have a look at this, have a look at the bright work, have a look at the exhaust tips, at the bumpers, at the windows, at the bright work around the windows perhaps, or the surfaces, so the skin of the car. And very interesting creative stage this is, right? With quite a lot of debate internally and with the client. So that's it's always a lot of fun to be in this stage and to really get all the creative ideas in, to visualize them. In some cases you think you have a great idea, you visualize it and you go like, it's a bit too soft perhaps for the car, or it's a bit too formal, or right. So it's a very interesting search to the right aesthetics. Moving on again. So I'm inviting you to come a bit closer here, because this team number one, it was called, this was actually the sketch where the client said, now we're on to something. And we will wholeheartedly agreed, because this was one of our favorites. It's still not there, it's still a little bit clumsy on resolutions, let's say. So the buttress here is already something we sketched, but then it's sort of quite harshly bumps into the tail lights. It's not well resolved there, but that's fine. The idea is there. Again, the number plate emboss is not correct yet. The rear end sort of leans over a bit too much. But the 3-box design is there as well. So the first box is, of course, the engine. Second box is the passenger's compartment. And the third box, this little box there, is quite unusual for, let's say, a shooting brake, a 3-door estate car, a wagon, whatever you want to call it. Because normally you wouldn't have that. But this is actually referring to our heritage, referring to our research, our mood boards, the mood boards we touched on in the first videos.
Yeah, with the brand DNA.
The brand DNA. So we're referring to those super important saloon cars that this brand made. And it does that, so it's a conceptual reference to the history of the brand, but it also reduces the bulk, the visual weight of the car. And again, I'd like to invite you to come to the screen. Because this pillar, the further we push that towards the front of the car, the less visual weight hangs over, let's say, the rear axle. And because this is a vast car, it's a big car, a lot of surface, we're trying to reduce the amount of surface on that car to reduce its visual weight, to make it look a little bit more elegant and pleasant. So it does two things at the same time. We're moving on again, because here we see more or less the final design for the side view as well as the rear view. Again, it's not entirely there yet. You see a different variation on the horseshoe shape in the boot area. You see that we have actually changed the way the taillights and the boot work together. There is actually some depth next to the taillights, and then the boot area comes out again, the boot lid, let's say. Not entirely sophisticated as it should be. But there is a little buttress, there is its own character. You can see already the number plate emboss is resolved here. That's a lot better than it was on the previous sketch. It sits better, it helps with the visual weight of the rear end. And really an important stage again, finalizing the design work. So,
because here we decided on the general layout of all the parts that are in the boot lid.
Exactly. Yeah.
So the handle, the reverse light, the
all the different
tail lights.
graphics,
all bright work.
also, if we're looking at the bright work around, so we have this rounded inner corners that we introduced there on the C-pillar, but also in the window, the lower corners left and right of the window. And if you move to the screen on the left, you see the final car, it has that as well. And we can actually scroll through a few images there because it's interesting to show that. You can see on the final car, the lower half of the boot lid is completely flush, so the shut line is a gap like it is on almost every single car between the boot lid in this case and that fender. And here you can nicely see how that fender is pushed in behind the tail light. That's definitely something new, something we introduced to the Rolls-Royce Corniche design. And then moving upwards, you see that horseshoe shape of the boot lid. And then here you see how the upper half of that boot lid is actually pushed in and creating that buttress. So it's, if you like, a three-dimensional shut line. That's quite unique, and it introduces a little bit of new DNA, you could argue, to the Corniche, but it's a relevant DNA. I will show you that as well.
Yeah.
It's a relevant DNA coming from heritage. So you've seen in previous videos all the mood boards, you've seen all the ideation sketches, and this is a reference that we made for ourselves, like how do the surfaces of the front end of the Corniche actually run? How is it built up? What do we see? The rear end as well, and this is actually the Silver Cloud tree
Yes.
coupe with this very strong buttress on the top window of that coupe, and a different way of implementing the graphic of the number plate emblem at the rear. And you see these more almost American, you could say, rear wings and sort of fins. And that's why we got quite a bit of visual inspiration from, but we tuned it down a lot. It's a lot less extreme on the car. So again, the Cloud Tree Coupe, and then here on the screen, these little wings and the subtle buttresses running into the top of the car.
Yeah, because it's very important to create a depth and a sculpture
Yeah.
in the rear end. Otherwise, it would be just a closed off lid.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
it would almost be a boring, not suiting to the incredible design of the car.
Yeah, yeah. And if we're moving on from here, it's also nice to show actually. These are the final sketches. You can see also how Tim has put in quite a lot of effort into the actual color of the car, nice rich yellow highlights. You see how we are describing to ourselves, to the client, to our internal CAD team, how that tail light moves into the car and then it comes out again. The surface, of course, I'm talking about. So the tail light surface goes in and then out again around the boot lid. You see how the shut line flows. You see how this buttress is creating a beautiful highlight. And on the other side, of course, a nice shadow. Again, emphasizing what Tim just said, creating this sculpture, this sense of occasion. It needs to be something special. It's not just a station car or just a shooting brake. It's a Rolls-Royce Corniche shooting brake. It needs to have its own character, building on the DNA of the brand in question. Moving on again.
More images.
More images, and very important, of course, how does the car look when the bike carrying system is in use? So these are fold-out tail lights. The center part of the bumper is electrically operated. It moves out. I will show some images of that. So you can see all the details on the photos there. We'll do a separate video on that.
Yeah, I don't think I can find them.
Well, no, it's mainly about the sculpture here in that boot lid and the buttresses. The completely new shut line being a lot softer than the original Corniche shut line, and
lower as well.
Lower as well. And on this screen, interesting as well to show some of these images, of course, of the sketches. That little buttress, that little third box we talked about, right? So you just see it, and on a sketch that's maybe a small part, but in real life that's like a 15 centimeter amount of material we take out of that C-pillar, because otherwise that C-pillar would end over there. So, and we'll move on again, because this is an interesting image as well. Of course, this is the standard saloon, the two-door, the standard saloon up there, and then the two-door saloon coachwork by Milner Parkward. This was our donor car, and this is an original ad, basically, right? An advertisement of Rolls-Royce. Yeah. And let's scroll down, just showing some of the other models that were available. Of course, fully coach built by Malone Parkward again, the convertible as well. And then there's, of course, a long wheelbase saloon with this upright heavy C-pillar. And here, nicely done, a graphic of our car, a sketch of our car in the same style, where you can see actually the design work matches the work that was done. Sloping roofline, heavy C-pillar. In this case, it's a B C pillar. In this case, we have a few less pillars, because this is, of course, a car with more doors. But the essence is a heavy pillar in the back is typical Rolls-Royce. However, this is a formal car, and this is a slightly more sporting car. So that's why we've increased the speed of the roofline as well as the speed of the pillar.
Yeah, with the rake of the pillar, we can identify the
character.
It's more dynamic, even comparing it to the two-door coupe.
Yeah. So the two-door, of course, is again more dynamic than the regular saloon.
Yeah.
So I hope this has enriched your view on what we've done at Niels van Roij Design on this lovely Henry II shooting brake. A thoroughly enjoyable design process,
sure.
right?
Yeah.
A lot of research, like I said, that it is very key to our studio, how we work, where we don't just dive into what the client wants, but also what the brand represents that the client likes so much. So thank you for tuning in. We'll looking forward again to the next video on this car. There's a lot to talk about, and we'll see you then. Cheers.